Hey guys, welcome back to Barrovian Made. Today we are going to be designing and making something on a whim. I just have these oak boards. Yeah, they came from an old table. I got no idea what I'm doing at this point. All I know is that I am making a coffee table. So I'm just ripping these down, getting them ready to glue up. I'm not too bothered about making them all the exact same size. I'm just roughly getting them all in. I am making them the same length though, which is why I'm cutting them down here. But I'm not too bothered about making them the exact same width across. I think roughly as long as they go together, it's fine because oak, it's quite easy to match the grain and stuff. But you'll see later on in the video that I really should have probably matched the grain a bit better. Came out a little bit match, but if anything, it gives it a bit more of a rustic feel. I wouldn't have used that middle piece that I used there now that I've seen it all done and polished up and stuff. But you know, you live and you learn. But anyway, we're getting that all glued up, and then while that is drying, I'm getting my creative juices flowing, and I came up with a design that I really want to have a shot at, give a try, because I'm not too sure whether it's going to be structurally right or not. But it ended up coming out pretty well. First thing what we're going to do to make these legs is we're going to rip down 8 identical pieces, and then just to make these a little bit different, we're going to rip a 45-degree cut on all the edges, just so it's like a nice sharp, like sort of masculine feel look to it, if you know what I mean. I think given these 45-degree angles and stuff, it gives it a really modern look. And what I'm doing here is I'm just cutting in these 45-degree angles because I actually plan on making these legs like sort of buckle in on each other. Like you can almost explain it as having like a string round and pulling it tight, and it pulls it all into the center. That's what I'm planning to do here, and I'm going to have like a little shelf. Well, I guess you guys know what I'm going for because you've seen it in the thumbnail. But this is how I went about doing it. I was really unsure about how strong this joint would actually be and if the table would hold up. But I have actually sat on the table, and I'm about 16, 17 stone. So if it can take my weight sitting on it, then I'm sure it's going to be plenty strong for a few mugs here and there. But the way we're gluing these up, I'm just going to do a simple butt joint, put a few screws in there, and yeah, I actually watched a video about people testing different joints, and people say, you know, you can strengthen these joints by putting like biscuits and stuff in them so you get long grain to long grain. But in these joint testing videos, they always seem to break because of that. So I decided just to leave it like a normal butt joint because in these videos, a mitre joint ranks pretty high up in there. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sure you guys will know what video I'm talking about. But there was a person out there that tested a bunch of butt joints, and he's done a few videos on it. And yeah, they seem to be actually a lot stronger than we all think. So I decided just to go with this, and it came out really, really strong. I'm putting the shelf in what we're doing anyway. That's going to reinforce it because it's going to have more surface area, long grain to long grain anyway. So yeah, but I'm going around just filling up all those holes that I've made with those screws just to make sure everything's nice and flush, so when we paint it, there's no like big obvious holes in it. It's just the little extra step to make sure that this comes out as a really, really nice table rather than something with a bunch of holes in it. And talking about holes, we need to tackle this tabletop because this is all reclaimed oak of old tables. There is some inlaying and stuff to do, and there was a crack here that we couldn't see on camera, but there was a crack that ran all the way through that knot, and also there was, you know, parts of that knot missing. So I thought, perfect way to practice my bow tying. As you've already seen on the channel, I did a quick video on how to get a perfect bow tie. I'll link it up in the corner if you want to go and watch it. I'm just basically using that technique minus the paper plate. But yeah, we're getting all this all marked out. We've got the bow tie, using the router to go around with it. And I like to use a little trick and come back into those corners with a razor blade and chisel to make sure everything's nice and perfect. You'll see all my tips and tricks in the video that I posted. I have a special sort of technique to make sure I get a seamless gap that I haven't heard anywhere else on the internet, so I do recommend you go and watch that video. But we're just going to go ahead and take our time and get all this nicely chiseled in. Probably should have done a better job at filming, having the light right there sort of caused some lens flare, and it's not the best quality video, so I hope you guys can forgive me. And you could probably notice as well on those bits of those boards, you can see where I've surface planed them. You can see I've got some chips in my blade that I need to address, but I've been so busy lately with different projects. I've just been having to use it as is and sand those little bits off. But yeah, I like to use a nice razor blade to get into these tight little corners. I find if you use a chisel, you mark the top because the chisel sort of wedges itself in there. So coming back with a razor blade, just trim those little corners up. Works really well for me. And then we can get rid of all this tape and we can get into actually inlaying the bow tie. This is going to provide strength because right through that there is a small micro crack, and over time with wood moving it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. This just creates like a mechanical connection to stop that wood there from expanding and that crack getting any bigger. And also gluing it in place is just going to give it some more support anyway. So that's why I chose to do a bow tie here instead of just the normal patches that I've done everywhere else on the underside of this table. And also it's a little bit decorative. It looks nice. I don't know about you guys. I know bow ties can be quite controversial on tables and stuff, but I quite like the look of a bow tie. And I'm not sure if that's because I'm a craftsman and I know what it takes to put a bow tie in there so I can appreciate it more. But I think I just like the look of them as well. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Do you like bow ties or not? I'm pro bow tie. Let me know in the comments below if you're the same. I think now is a good time to say as well that I think you should subscribe to the channel. Not only have I got a video showing you how to get a perfect bow tie like that, but I've got plenty of other videos showing you how to get free yoke and making these projects with minimal tools in a tiny little workshop. So you should subscribe. I want you to subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. Okay, begging over, but on the real though, it would be nice if you guys can subscribe. But anyway, you're probably wondering what I'm doing here now, and I'm making some like weird dovetail thing. Well, I want these angled legs to swoop out slightly, as well as it being like pinched in on the sides. I want it to be pinched in everywhere else as well. So it literally looks like it's being choked in the middle, if that makes any sense. So the only way I could think of achieving this was just to do some different sort of shapes and all that stuff on here, but I pretty much just used the same degree on my table saw and then just made these cuts to size and then came back in with a chisel to get rid of that little burr at the end. I didn't want to run the table saw all the way up there just in case I went a little bit past, but you can see there where I've glued the legs on. That's sort of the look I'm going for, and we're just going to go. I'm literally just using glue for this joint, referring back to that video I was telling you before about glue joints and stuff like that. It seems like if I'd put a dowel in this or screwed it or did anything to sort of like compromise that bond or what some people would consider strengthening it, that it would actually turn out to be weaker. I mean, you guys let me know what you think down in the comments. Everything I've been like taught or seen online says that I should have really reinforced this with like a dowel or something, you know, to make it a bit stronger. But on these joint videos that I've watched, it seems like in the real world it actually makes them weaker. Like the strongest joints that came from these videos have been miter joints, butt joints, and rebates. So it's almost like a fact that I'm not really willing to like sort of like fully believe yet, but you know, the evidence is there, so I can't dispute it, if you know what I mean. So if anyone has any further information or maybe some better videos out there talking about joint strength and stuff, and not only talking about it but having like evidence and showing it, then I'd love to watch it, because these videos that I've been watching on different joints have confused me, because I always thought the dovetail joint or box joints and stuff were going to be the strongest joints out there, and they ended up being the weakest. So that's a confusing matter. But yeah, anyway, back on to this project and this build. I'm getting sidetracked here on this voiceover. This was a pain to sort of glue up. I had to clamp in all weird angles, and not only did I have to clamp in weird angles, I had to make sure everything was straight and level and that there was no tilting or anything like that. And you can see I had a bit of plywood underneath it. That's because my table's not flat, so I was referencing off that. And luckily I managed to dial it in and get it all perfect, and it dried okay, so that's good. But working back on the tabletop now, we're just going to give this a sanding. We're going to get rid of all those marks that have been left from my chipped router, all the glue marks that have been left from all the inlays I was doing. and just sand this up to 120 grit, and then from 120 grit I can go to 320 grit with my normal orbital sander. But before I do all that, I'm going to give this a round over. Sanding it roughly first and then doing it a round over I find to be the best way of doing it, just because when you haven't roughly sanded it yet, sometimes it's like a little bit of glue that's sticking up that catches your router, and then you have to do all sorts of things to jump over it and stuff. But yeah, I don't know, I find it easier to do it when I've roughly sanded it. And you're probably thinking this is a bit early to be finishing this, and this is because this wood has had evidence of woodworm in it before. I am almost 100% sure there is no woodworm in it as we speak. I've seen no new holes in it for the couple of months that I've had this piece of wood, so it looks like whatever woodworm was in there is out now. But I've read online that boiled linseed oil is very, very good at getting rid of pests, but woodworm and stuff like that. So I decided while I was finishing up the legs and doing work that I would completely saturate it in linseed oil, and then I can come back at the end and do a normal hard wax oil finish, just to, make my mind rest at ease. But yeah. By the way, masking all of this up and painting it seemed like a great idea, but sticking it on with glue, I should have ripped it off as soon as the glue started getting tacky, because it took forever to sit there with chisels and a razor blade to peel all that masking tape off around the glue joints. Right headache. So if I can pass on any wisdom, make sure you remove the masking tape before the glue dries, because that was a headache. It was only a few seconds on camera, but it was about an hour in real life of me peeling all that off and then having to sand it all. But yeah, I'm just going back now as well and putting some hard wax oil on everything, and I'm putting it on the paint as well. I was a little bit worried that it might deteriorate the paint, because I'm not quite sure how this paint reacts to an oil finish or anything like that, but it came out looking alright. It did lighten the darkness of it, like the blackness of it. On camera it looks like it's really shiny and nice there, but I'm sat across from it now looking at it. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit grayer. It's still looking really nice, and I think I actually prefer this color for this table. But just a little warning, if you want to put oil on your table, painted legs at home, I'd do a test piece first. And also, I've got these figure of 8 fixings that we're putting in there. I used a spade bit just because I couldn't think of any other way to get that nice round shape in there. But obviously with a spade bit, you have that little nub that comes off at the end. So the screw that I screwed in, it wasn't grabbing as much as it normally would. It still grabbed it plenty enough. But, I would have preferred it to get all the threads on there that I can. And after putting each figure of 8 fixing on the top of each leg, I decided to put the tabletop on in the shed, my nicely waxed tabletop on a dusty workbench. Yep, good idea, Travis. But we're just putting all this on. We're just using normal wood screws here, because that's what the figure of 8 fixings come with. And the figure of 8 fixings are really good at wood movement. They can move. But looking back on it now, I might have put them in the wrong place. I'm not quite sure if they'll do anything there. But this is the table. It came out looking really nice. I think it might stand a little bit too tall. I feel like it could be a little bit lower down. Maybe I shouldn't have done those legs at a perfect 45-degree angle. Maybe I should have made them a little bit steeper. Not steeper, sorry. What's the right word? Is it acute? I'm not too sure. I'm not going to Google it either. But you guys know what I mean. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Stick around for the next one, and I'll see you in future. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. If you want to go ahead and support the channel, you can buy some beautiful coasters, chopping boards, and stuff like that on my website, barrovianmade.com. It'll be in the description below. But I'll wait for you in the next video. See you later, guys.